Howdy, Chuck here. Just a little editorial note before we start the podcast. We recorded this the night before the balanced data slate, so all the information we have is correct up to that point, just so we know where this falls along the timeline. If you're looking for some balanced data slate information, a lot of great content creators have some stuff out there, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next week on the podcast. Also, I want to say thank you to our Patreons. We are keeping the lights on now. So Jenna, Cody, Sam, Sean, Nick, Holly, Zarin, Greg, Rob, Zach, thank you so much for all your support. We really appreciate it. If you would like to join, patreon.com/Vox Cascadia Podcast is where you can join this exclusive crowd of amazing people. Thanks so much. Here's the episode. Like the Highlander, there can only be one Vox, and we're going to find out which one it is this week on the Vox Cascadia Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Chuck. I'm joined by regular co-host Connor. How you doing, bud?
Not too bad, Chuck. You gave me some sort of cold last recording, so now I'm giving it back to you.
It's not how it works. We were like 3 hours away from each other. It's not how viruses work.
Infiltrated the computer.
Stop getting your information from Facebook.
I think there's like a whole movie about that Connor's probably never seen. So we're gonna add that to the list of stuff he's never seen. Also,
what is that movie, Tyler?
I don't know, but it was a pretty interesting movie. It's like all about a word virus. Can't remember it for the life of me though.
Well, Connor will look it up halfway through the show when we're trying to talk to him about something.
It'll be really interesting to hear him type away.
So, and as I mentioned, there can only be one Vox. So with us tonight, we have two of the three hosts of the Vox Scream podcast. So we have Mark and Joe. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I actually can contribute a little bit to the Parasite conversation. I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid. And in the last game done by Hideo Kojima, one of the main plot points is there is a virus through languages. It's a specific virus of speaking a specific language that gets passed from person to person. So that's a fun little add bit to your bit.
That is possibly what happened then. That must be how I got Connor sick, apparently. So, and then Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, y'all. Really excited to be here. I am not currently ill like my co-conspirator George Pratt and Chuck and Connor, y'all seem to be, but this podcast is going to be sick. So let's get it.
I see what you did there. So, so I've listened to Vox Scream for quite a while, and when I was in Vegas, I got to meet George, who unfortunately is not with us tonight. He's fighting something that picked up in Vegas, and I saw him and heard his voice, and I said, "Oh, like you're from Vox Scream, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I listen to you guys. I love you guys. I'm Chuck from Vox Cascadia." And he goes, "Who?" And I go, "Okay, yeah, cool. Here,
That's wow. That's very awkward.
No, it was
wow.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Connor thinks he's more popular than he is. I understand our popularity because I see the numbers. I just don't share it with Connor and let him think he's more popular.
You say we get like 1,000 listeners every new week.
That's just because you're listening to it over and over again, so you can hear your own voice.
I don't see how that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Numbers are numbers. Like that's all that matters, right? Line goes up.
Line goes up. That's all it is. I mean, as soon as we monetize it, then we'll just all be listening to it like 24/7. So, well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Let's find out a little bit about you both. So, Mark, we'll start with you. So, if you'd tell us a little bit about how you got into miniature wargame hobby, how you got into Kill Team specifically, and what's your backstory?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of stumbled into the hobby. I think that D&D was the precursor to a lot of this. Kind of played that a little bit off and on between like 2010 and got back into it a little bit during 2020. My roommate is actually like a PhD student in game studies, and he writes a lot of really sick D&D campaigns. So I was really happy to have a chance to play with him. I kind of realized that I like more of like the tabletop gaming aspect of it, moving pieces around the board, using special abilities more than I like the investigating and arguing with my party about who we're looting and what we're doing. And from there, kind of ended up just looking at Warhammer, thinking that was really cool, but got into Kill Team first one of the people at our local Warhammer store recommended that as kind of a good entryway, and kind of haven't looked back. There's I feel like I started playing Kill Team at the start of 2023 or so I've been at it for about 2 full years now.
Nice. I think you took the good way in, whereas a lot of us are like, I'm going to play big 40K. And that's what I did. And I collected army after army. And then I was like, oh, I play Kill Team instead.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect, man. I've got a couple unpainted combat patrols sitting on my shelf. So, I want to play Big Hammer, but I realized that what I was hoping Big Hammer would be like, Kill Team actually is. I was hoping that it would be a lot of that sort of your move, my move kind of aspect to 40K, but I was a little bit more turned off by it when it's just kind of, I move my whole army, you move your whole army. It's not to say I still don't want to like try it, maybe build up an army slowly. And like I've played some combat patrol and I enjoy it, but I think I just enjoy Kill Team more.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common these days. There's a lot of people who get into the hobby. They're like, oh, I want to build a real big army, stuff like that. And then the appeal of Kill Team hits and they play a few games and they realize that there's a lot of depth here and there's a really good game. And that this is actually what they're looking for, as much as they want to build 2,000 points and paint up some tanks and stuff like that, just because it's cool,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think the other thing is that my analog to my roots, my early roots for this sort of tactical combat was probably games like Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics. And that sort of, your activation, my activation gameplay, looking at threat ranges, all that sort of stuff is in those games. And I see a lot of parallels there and what we're doing now.
Joe, what about you? What's your story? How'd you end up here?
Yeah, so I started picking up miniature painting in 2020 during the pandemic when we were all kind of locked up. Unfortunately, I did start the Big Hammer route. Bought a Blood Angels Combat Patrol, painted some terrible Ultramarines, and then just kind of stopped. And then one day I saw there was a smaller version of this, so I started in the middle of like second edition. So I would say I hopped in right after, I want to say, the Nakwin box came out, so right after Legionnaires came out. And I played pretty much all of that edition. Got competitive about midway through that edition. Started going to bigger tournaments and stuff like that. Found myself doing pretty well. But my touchstone was kind of before I got into this particular hobby is I played a lot of XCOM and XCOM 2, and felt very, very similar to Kill Team, and it kind of immediately clicked for me when I started doing it. And I had started reading the 40K books and stuff like that. And I really liked the individual unit aspects of Kill Team in terms of like being able to tell a story and stuff like that. And I like those smaller stories. I mean, my favorite trilogy of books out of 40K is the Night Lords books. And honestly, those books, if you've not read them, it's a story of a kill team. It really is. It's 6 guys who are going throughout the universe and doing terrible things to people while also being sad about it. And that's what I enjoy of when I create my kill teams and do that. But also, I enjoy the competitive aspect of it as well. Met Mark Meyer a little later, met George before that, and we got together and started a podcast to talk about this game that we like, and it's going pretty well, I'd say.
We owe so much to like two things you mentioned there. One, people that want to try 40K and then realize like this is too much shit to do, and then find out, oh, there's a smaller version, we can play that instead. Oh shit, it's a great game. That's like our number one recruitment tool. And then 2, XCOM. You mentioned that like the easiest way, like when someone walks up like, oh, I have no idea what tabletop games are. I'm like, well, have you played XCOM? And if they say yeah, I'm like, it's that, but like a 90% shot actually hits 90% of the time. It's not 90%. That's a 50% chance of missing right there.
Yeah, that is some of my most satisfying and some of my most aggravating moments of gameplay, with a 99% chance to hit. And then still, like, my favorite thing is the animation when they miss is like they'll be standing right in front of them and their body twists out of the way inexplicably to shoot in the air. And like the individual storytelling of that, like like Necromunda and some of those other games are more about telling the story of those things, and XCOM kind of blends the competitive itch for me and Kill Team, but also those story moments of like, what happened there? Why did his body inexplicably twist away and shoot into the air? Was he terrified? Who knows?
Yeah, when those failures happen in XCOM, it's great, and it's what I imagine happens too. Like, when you charge up with like a Night Lord's skin thief or whatever, and just roll all ones, you're like, sometimes you just trip and cripple yourself on your own axe.
Sometimes the Chaos Gods curse you.
Yeah,
one of my most memorable game moments ever was having my Legionaries leader lose to the Ninja Grot. So like that's awful. Just completely whiffed, and he made all his hits, and I wasn't at full health, and that was it.
I will say the mental image of a grot stabbing a Chaos Space Marine in the neck. One of my favorite posts I ever did on Reddit was like, imagine you're a Chaos Space Marine. You fought on Terra. You fought alongside against the Emperor. You are literally thousands of years old, and some guy named Ted stabs you in the throat with a bayonet, dead on the spot. Thousands of years of combat experience gone by some idiot named Ted who shit himself.
It's getting late early in the long war here, guys.
Yeah, that's grots are tougher than they seem though. It took me 4 Kasrkin charging into a grot to take him down one time last year at LVO, the final game of LVO, and I wasted 4 Kasrkin. Not like Kasrkin are melee kings, they're not a legionary, but grots are tougher than they seem. So,
Joe, didn't we play a game last edition where you shot and failed to kill a glitchling twice?
Yes, I distinctly remember that, and it might have been with it probably was Scouts.
It was with Blades of Cain. Actually, I think it happened with both of those teams separately.
Of course it did, because, I'll tell you guys a funny story, and George doesn't do this anymore. George used to keep track of all of his dice rolls. He would take a picture of every single dice roll he would make to make a statistical argument for why his dice are worse than everybody else's, and had this whole matrix and chart to basically show that slightly below average rolls he was having compared to obviously it's going to be 50-50 on a 6-sided dice, but just I find that the obsession with taking pictures of every single dice roll and only to find out you got a 50% chance is just very funny to me.
No, I love that. That's perfectly fitting for a Kill Team player. Like I'm cursed, and then you do the math, you're like, maybe I'm just cursed in really critical rolls or something.
I personally believe in dice per team. I build my team, I paint my team, I buy a set of dice for my team, and that's their personality. However, if I don't like their personality, I'm prone to throw it away and buy a new one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, easy come, easy go with dice. I've got 2 sets that I really like. I've got the lucky dice that I keep hidden away for special occasions, and then my Zinchi dice that just bring whatever they feel like to most of my games.
And then everybody has their secret store of GW dice that we all know are weighted, so those are for the big games.
Are the lucky dice the loaded dice? Is that what those are? The secret dice?
The toilet floating dice.
The lucky dice are actually just some red Chessex dice. And the reason I think they're lucky is because I dedicated them to Khorne, and I just kill things when I roll them. I'm not thinking strategy. I'm just thinking blood. Let's go. Now, blood, skulls, all that jazz.
Did you actually baptize them in blood when you dedicated them to?
Oh, it's a great question.
I'm not at liberty to discuss this right now, but
well, like we mentioned, nobody listens to this podcast anyway, so you'll be fine. So don't worry. So.
It's cool. Nobody listens to our podcast either.
Except
for y'all.
Yeah, we're just talking for our friends. That's all it is.
I do like that. I am starting to get at least a couple of people that have heard our voice when I go to other FLGs that I don't normally go to. They're like, "Oh, I recognize your name." I'm like, "That's not good for me to hear. That's going straight to the brain and ego."
Yeah, Connor feeds off this stuff, and Connor also has a very recognizable voice too for reasons. So,
well, if they hear a guy with any voice that sounds like mine mention the word Admech or Skatari, you're like, that's that loser. Okay, I get it.
I haven't quite gotten that experience because I haven't really been out yet since we started the podcast. I guess we did was Nova, and that we weren't. I wouldn't say we were probably still at 100.
We had maybe 10 episodes under our belt at that point, so not really in the same spot we're at now. We've had like some pretty good growth, but still, on the come up. But we're having a good time with the podcast. I was very much of the mindset that I really just want to steal all of George and Joe's secrets, and hopefully some other people are able to do that as well.
I mean,
Yeah, fair. I mean, I've been told I'm good at this game occasionally.
Yeah, so is that kind of the creation story of the podcast? You guys touched on it a little bit ago, but was it just like, I want to get good and steal my friend's strategies?
I think all three of us had been batting around the idea of starting a podcast in our local Discord, and the three of us just kind of came together and did it. For those who don't know at home, I actually edit podcasts professionally, and so I've got access to a lot of like the tools to record online and distribute. And so that's kind of like the big barrier to entry, I think, for a lot of new podcasters. And so we just didn't have to deal with that. And we started recording and making a lot of mistakes. And here we are now doing the same thing, recording and making a lot of mistakes. I'm sure that George and Joe have maybe different motivations than I do for, being on the podcast as far as secret stealing. But Joe, what's your big motivation for the podcast?
I would like to completely chill out for GW at some point and never have to work again. No, but in all seriousness, I really love the game. I like doing and talking about the game with people. Me and George. Let's put it this way: me and George were doing the podcast before we even met you, Mark. It was just us sitting and talking after our league game for 3 hours about nonsense regarding the game. So now we've just consolidated that time to actually like doing something fairly productive about it and maybe helping new players along the way. I think that this is I'm glad GW has recognized this game as one of their flagship games now. So now it feels like we can maybe start pulling some of those folks away from like Big Hammer and like, this is like the real competitive game. Like, I swear there's not the nonsense you deal with in 40K here, cut to one of the worst metas we've ever been in, but that's new edition growing pains. But I do it because I want to, help people enjoy the game that I love and potentially play it competitively because I have fun doing it competitively.
Yeah, it's that week we finally got like flagship product status was so great, and then they've abandoned us ever since.
It's crazy how like I'm not like you. I know we're laughing, but like it really does feel like we have been radio silent since December.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole like not being an LVO sucked. Like them going, oh yeah, Kill Team's still a thing. Like in the middle of the reveals, they're like, don't forget, like that's still a product. And then radio silence on everything. Like just give us a little bit a roadmap.
Also, funnily enough, we were talking last time on the pod when we were doing this. We've also like had pretty consistently good rumors before boxes coming out. I think the last like 5 or 6 boxes, like we knew like almost months before what was being revealed, or what was likely to be in those boxes. I haven't heard anything since Brutal and Cunning. The only thing I've heard, and I don't even know where the origin of this came from, was something corn related with Grey Knights, but I don't even know if that was good information. I usually rely on like Valrak for stuff, but
I'm a pretty well-renowned rumor monger in the scene. I have my sources, and it's dried up for me. I haven't heard anything for a minute myself. Like, I think the Grey Knight rumor may actually be sourced from me potentially.
That's hilarious.
The Jungle Fighters were rumored back in 2nd edition, and we still haven't heard anything about that. So that is still technically out there as a rumor.
Oh, did you not hear what that ended up being?
Well, I know that they had the jungle rules, but like the jungle, like the Catchacans, or I don't know how you say it, but like the jungle guardsmen.
They've been saying that since this game came out because the people just want a Catachan update in 40K.
Is that how you say it? Catachan?
Yeah, Catachan, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like, people just want their Rambo guys. That's what they want. And I mean, it would work for Kill Team.
Mm-hmm. Right there with you. I've never heard any like real validity to that rumor myself. The last like really solid rumor I heard was New Orc Team. So like heading up to this. And I was talking about that 2 years ago. So like we've
That's
had
a little concerning now that I think about it. Like why we should be. We're due for a box in the next couple months.
I mean, yeah,
I'm not worried about new boxes because if the last 2 years are anything to look at, we're going to get a reveal at Adepticon and a new team's going to come out in April or May.
So either they've like plugged up all the leaks, which is entirely possible, or like I mean, because they do this stuff like way before. Like it's like, you know, the new Kill Team box is already like close to production, I imagine, just given the timeline. So it is odd to me that we don't have anything, which means it might be something really special, which would be really cool.
I mean, hey, if we're getting like upscaled Grey Knights and they're coming out on Kill Team first, that'd be pretty special. Grey Knights are like one of the last factions to like have really old, you know, like the pre-Primaris thing. So like, I'm not even a Grey Knights guy, but a new like 5-man elite team, if we're getting like, they included that in the kill op, 5-man strike force, because like they're even more elites with a new psychic thing, but not as bullshit as Warp Coven right now, hopefully. That'd be sick as shit. And that'd be like a hype box.
That'd be great. That would be amazing. You know, especially since we got Fulgrim coming back. Yeah. Maybe that you do something Slanesh on the other side to kind of link up with that. I don't know. I mean, either way, I'm getting the new stuff. I'm getting those new Emperor's Children look fantastic.
Yeah, they really do.
And I'm doing something Kill Team with them.
Looking,
yes,
Phobos Chaos Marines is what they're going for with it. It feels like, but they're amazing.
Very much.
You know, like Mark 6 is essentially what it is. Great transition. I don't think we're going to get Slanesh right away in Kill Team. I think that they want to sell the box, like the big box and armies first on it, and not separate the crowd. I think that like the cult armies we're likely to get like, you know, Khorne's a maybe. I don't know how that's going to be or if it's going to be, but like I think we'd get Slanesh like in a year or two.
I'm just trying to think of like, what do we, the other, I actually know that I'm talking out loud. I do remember them hearing something about Exodites a while back. I don't know if that's still a thing. That would be a fun way to get those Eldar into Kill Team, especially since we're going to be losing Void Dancers and Void Scarred here. Well, losing quotation marks in competitive play, in like real like high level competitive play.
So I think that we've already seen the replacements of those teams with Mandrakes and then Blades of Cain, because like Mandrakes cover Weird Elves, which are the Void Dancers, and then Blades of Cain cover Craft World, essentially, which is not quite what Corsairs are, but I think it like fits with their main line. Exodites, like as far as Kill Team goes, that's weird for me, mostly because like why are they leaving their planet? You know, like that's like their whole thing. They're like Space Amish, you know, they're like, fuck off, get off my farm, you know. So
well,
I think
we got
like
Breachers, Breachers, and that was the joke when Breachers came out was the ship crashed again every time they're not in Gallodark oh man, we keep crashing the ship.
For sure. You know, I think it's like there's definitely been some weird fits. I think if we're gonna get Exodites, it'll probably be next season. Like that one doesn't feel right for this season. I would like to see like the season finish out with like Dark Mech or something like that. Maybe like Legions of Vashtor would be really cool against Grey Knights. And then I think we need like another Sisters team of some sort, or like an Ecclesiarchy
100%.
team. You know, so
we
like,
definitely do.
That's one of our gonna be missing.
One of our community suggested a good idea. Celestians are due for a rework.
Yeah, they are. Those are the ones that used to come, or they still technically come in the Sisters of Battle kit, but then got removed from the Codex for some reason. It's the equivalent of like Battle Sister veterans and shit. They've been a long time part of the Sisters army, and then they kind of got redone into the ones with the shields. But then the actual like standard kit version of them got completely cut from their Codex, and Sisters fans have not been a fan of that for very obvious reasons.
Yeah, sounds great to me.
I think like Crusaders would be really cool.
Ooh,
and, like,
that's a fun one.
Crusaders and Black Exorcist would be like a really cool way to go. I want to see more weird stuff in Kill Team, like the little bits and bobs, and you know.
Here's the question then: if you could have anything that's not in the current lineup as a Kill Team, what would you have it be?
Zotes, absolutely Zotes, 100%. Give me some big weird bases, 5-man team.
You just killed the conversation with Zotes.
Yeah,
I was about to say. Well, I mean,
cricket.
we had this conversation, like, I want to say a couple of podcasts ago, and I feel like I'm cheating because I already got my kill team and it's the Night Lords. So I feel like anything else I ask for is just asking for bad things in the universe. Though if I did have to throw my lot out in the universe, I would like to see, but in the same way we got a specialist heresy or chaos team in Night Lords, I would like to see a specialist loyalist version of like Nemclaw. In some version of that, I would think maybe like a Death Company type deal for Blood Angel would be fun. Though I don't know that that's definitely not happening since we literally just got those upgrades for that.
You just got Chuck on board though. He's down for that.
I love Blood Angels. A Death Company with like 4 Marines, maybe 5 Marines, and a chaplain. And like it works almost, I think almost even works like the Vespids, where you kind of like it's almost like
you have some kind of point system.
Yeah, where you got to be within 8 inches or 9 inches of them to fight the Black Rage. I would love that.
See, that's another thing though. Like we're in a weird space with like Loyalist Space Marines because Angels of Death kind of covers everything. And like Phobos, I guess, is not, once again, quote unquote, going away fairly soon. So the only other thing I could think of is like already out, and like we already have like Sternguard or something like that. So I don't think we're getting like anything like vaguely Loyalist Space Marine in this game for a couple years, I imagine. Even though technically speaking, there will only be one, or I mean, I guess if you count Scouts, like 2 Loyalist Space Marine teams in the entire game out of 40 something factions, which seems low given they're the most popular faction next to Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah, I think Grey Knights and Death Watch are like a really good fill-in for that. If we see Loyalists, that's what we're going to see 100% in my opinion. So, but you know, like other stuff I think I would like to see, like I've talked about it before, Black Sentinels. They're super cool. They're like the armed force of like the basically like Sisters of Silence. They're like another portion of like the Talons. They're like more military rather than like monastic, and they're just like badasses. They're specifically like trained to take on psychers and stuff like that. Weird aliens like Harud would be super cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Like
they'd be so stuff. Creepy in mini form. So creepy. Just a bunch of worms. Just a bunch of worms.
I think for me, the 2 that I'd most want to see are Tyranids. It's low-hanging fruit, but I would love to see like a really flexible roster, mostly with just like big, ugly monsters. And then I'd love to see like stealth suits or some other kind of like, elite Tau kill team.
Yeah, stealth suits, like I'd like to see like maybe like 1 XV25 and like 5 XV15s. Like let's bring those back, like the ultralight stealth suits.
Ooh, that would be real popular in our scene. I'll tell you that right now. We got a lot of greater good lovers in our community that would jump on that in a heartbeat. And people, I mean, we thought we were going to see Vespids everywhere in our meta, and then we found out they were pee pee poo poo caca, and people decided not to play them. So
yeah, if they were even just like a little bit better, I think a lot of people would be playing them around Raleigh, Durham.
Yeah, I agree too. I'm going to push back against Tyranids. The only reason, and same with Demons, I don't think they really fit in Kill Team, just from like a lore perspective. I want Tyranid players to obviously have a team, but like bugs can't hack computers. And
that's fair. I will give you that. But as a Chaos Demon enjoyer, I would, if not Tyranids, I would like some other kind of bespoke Chaos team. Killerpox was probably my favorite team in the last edition, but I'm more of like a Zinch Demon enjoyer, like Flamers and those kinds of things, horrors. So I'd love to see a team that's more like that.
I think that'd be cool. I'd love to see them like explore like demonic possession or like weird like more interesting stuff like the Changeling, like bespoke warbands of demons, kind of like you get in maybe Underworlds and stuff.
Yeah, that would be neat.
If we could get whoever is sculpting all those models for Underworlds on the Kill Team side, I would be so excited.
I will say though, the Vespids are some of the best models we got in our range.
Oh yeah,
so we ate good with that.
Yeah, we thankfully have been getting great models. I just want to see like really crazy, unique ones. Like the entire team is like 6 unique guys or something.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I'm trying to think of something like an equivalent, if we even have an equivalent of that right now.
The
I don't think
closest
we
would
do.
be like Gellerpox or
Yeah.
the Rogue Traders, but those are like, both teams from like Kill Team 2018. So
Yeah,
I
Jesus.
mean, I think that the models are obviously really unique and special for Plague Marines, even if the data cards are just kind of a little bit more
Yeah, sure.
straightforward.
That's
true.
fair.
That's true.
The one we actually funny story. We have one guy that's in our community that is like still a firm believer in Kill Team 2018 and prefers it over the other versions of Kill Team, which is such a strange thing.
That's
given-
crazy, but I can
Yeah.
respect it. Like, you know what? There was some appeal. I can understand wanting to build a list and like your own unique guy, but the few times I've tried playing it, it feels not nearly as polished.
No, and it wasn't. And I distinctly remember talking with him about it, and that's exactly what he said. The list building, the individuality of it was super unique, and I respect that. I mean, I think something that I think was stripped out a little bit out of this edition is the as much as solo and co-op play is fun, like there's not really narrative anymore. There is no narrative anymore. Narrative play was kind of completely stripped out. And replaced with this solo co-op thing. I think it's because they didn't really know how they wanted to like progress the narrative system forward, because it already felt kind of slapped together.
Yep.
So for those of us that like are very casual and like would like to do a campaign and stuff like that, you're kind of only left with like the solo mode and the co-op mode, and then like taking vestiges of the older system, because it's pretty, you can port it over, it's not that hard.
What I'd be more interested in, Joe, is like doing basically like a Necromunda campaign, but with Kill Team rules. Like the Necromunda campaigns look super cool, and I like the way that you can. I would say it was like I think it's like a Dominion campaign. You basically like have maps that you play games on and try to control the maps for resources, and then after a while you start competing with. You start going back into the same maps and trying to retake them from other people. And it seems like a really fun way to do kind of like a round robin style narrative. And I mean, Necromunda seems really cool. I know only a little bit about the actual gameplay rules, but I've read a lot about the campaign rules. And it seems like it'd be easy enough to do that style of campaign just playing Kill Team.
Yeah, I think the problem is like lore wise, it's a little, because Necromunda is so perfect for that style, because it's a gang style turf war, and it just kind of, those narratives are easier to do, and there's like so much personality in those guys and stuff like that makes it like very easy to do. Whereas like, I mean, I guess you could say theoretically speaking that like Space Marines are not removed from having personality, but it's more regimented in the way that like armies are regimented versus like a gang of a bunch of dudes getting together. You know what I mean? It's less scrappy on the higher levels. That's why, like in like for example, the tabletop RPGs for Warhammer, the ones that are not strictly non like Space Marines or anything else, are higher tier of play. So like I forget which one it is, but one of them's like, oh, if you're playing anything like as a Space Marine, like you're at like the highest tier of play or something like that, because that's the only like lore that fits it. Versus like, for example, George does Dark Heresy, and then fun fact, we have the Cherokee Open coming up. Part of the Cherokee Open is going to be our narrative thing, and they're pulling George and Day are pulling parts of their Dark Heresy world over to the narrative campaign, so that'll be a fun little include. But Dark Heresy is exclusively just like normal dudes, you know what I mean? It's not like higher level, because it belies telling a story easier, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I'm just a fan of my imagination.
I think that like Necromunda has like a really good foundation for storytelling. And I think it works really well with like the gangs and the humans. I do think that like once you get into like the weird power scaling, because like really the power scaling of Kill Team is weird.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty weird. Like we're at a point like where another thing, like I'm personally a big advocate against like Terminators in Kill Team. Like I think like a team with one Terminator would be cool. A whole team of Terminators, that sounds potentially daunting or incredibly boring, and I feel like it's going to fall on one side of it. Like they're either going to hit that durability limit where they're just going to be oppressive, or they're just going to be a little undertuned, and they're not going to feel like Terminator should.
Exactly.
Like they do in the lore. Same with Custodes. Custodes are one of those teams. It's like in the lore, you know, 3 custodians should whoop all of the teams put together. Like, you know, like
In
no
fairness,
problem.
they are super inconsistent with writing custodies in general. Like, I mean, the most infamous example is, a bunch of Harlequins killing custodians much easier than they probably should. So that specific example, even they write it weirdly, but like one of the current examples I think of in that regard, and why I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Blades of Cain being in the game is like the Exarchs, right? The Exarchs, for example, the whole thing when we ported over from the last edition to this edition, basically no leaders hit on 2s anymore. One leader that really should be hitting on 2s, in my opinion, is the Exarch. Like, those Exarchs are meant to be able to kill Space Marines. They consistently do. Like, throughout the lore, they're supposed to be these big badasses, and they just don't feel that way sometimes when you people play those Blades of Cain folks. And I don't know. It's one of those balance issues that you find of like what exactly is the power scaling. Like, for example, like we joke about a Grok killing a Space Marine. Like, that should not happen. It doesn't happen. Like, it is very rare where you see very silly things like that happen in the lore, for good reason.
It's funny you put it like that, because I think the dog on the Ratlings is like 3-4 damage in melee. So if a dog bites and it's a critical hit, it's the same damage as a bolter, which is like an exploding shell.
Yep. Great example. Yeah, bolters are super weird in the game too, because they're all 3-4, and sometimes that means they're scaled with like hotshot las guns or like other weapons that they definitely shouldn't be scaled with, but like we do it for balance, right?
Yeah, I think you end up, especially on a D6 game, and people have talked about this ad nauseum, but on a D6 game where you have like a Space Marine hits on a 3, but a Guardsman hits on like 4, and like you said, you've got this exploding bolt round that can do as much damage as, a Squig normal bite does 4 damage, and you're talking about like an explosive shell is going to do the same critical damage as a Squig normal bite. And I'm sure Squigs have real big chompers, but yeah, the balance becomes a weird piece sometimes.
It's to represent the infection the Squig's gonna give you. Like, that 4 damage, 1's from the bite, 3's from whatever's infecting is gonna happen on the bite mark. But they don't have long-term cancerous effects in Kill Team, so they got to represent it somehow. It's like, you might survive the bite, but you got maybe 2 years left, buddy.
Now, I always took the higher damages in melee personally to like kind of be like the lethality of it. Like, while it may be like not as damaging of a weapon, getting a knife into a soft spot on someone's body, that's going to be a bad time for them,
Yeah, a grievous wound.
So you want to bring back the 4/6 Scout Blades? Is that what they were?
I'm not saying
yes,
that.
please. I'd love that.
I mean, maybe just the +1 body. If we ever get the BDS, we can find out. But I think maybe 1 body's good to start with.
Yeah, if I said straight up, we got the Cherokee Open coming up, and if we get the Scout body back, I will 100% play Scouts. I love my Scouts so much.
So, really quick question. Are you guys actually running the Cherokee Open, or are you just going to play it there?
George, our podcast fellow, is actually the head TO, and is going to be running that 2-day 6-round tournaments on that Saturday and Sunday, and then Day is running the narrative tournaments, and then me and Mark Meyer are both playing in the tournament itself.
Nice. We'll definitely get some more info and probably shout that out at the end when we normally do. But maybe you can speak for George. Do you know if he's going to implement the LVO BDS if there somehow isn't that out?
No, oh boy. I can tell you straight up that that's not going to happen. That was a massive point of discussion in our community. And based on my conversations with George, he did agree with most of them, minus 1 or 2 things that changed.
He specifically said that Dakota maybe did one thing that George probably wouldn't have done. We don't know what that is, but that's what he said.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'll be honest. If we don't have a data slate by the end of this month, we just gotta roll with it, man. Especially since this is a golden ticket event. Like, I don't know. Maybe George will change things just to make things feel a little not as bad as they are.
I would be shocked if we don't have a data slate by the end of February, though. I mean, I think we're all pretty shocked we don't have one now, but I think even the people who the copium is that, oh, well, the FAQ that we got in November was the quarterly balance update. And so if we're going by quarters, the latest we would get one is basically mid-February. So I'm not super worried about that. I think that there's going to be a balanced data slate sometime between now and, the weeks leading up to the Cherokee Open. But I mean, if there's not, I mean, I'm like, the way that I'm thinking about it is I've not had a lot of success in third edition. And I think it's largely just because I haven't been playing, the meta teams. And I don't think that's because I'm like trying hard not to. I think it's just a lot of the teams I have are, either hard mode teams or just teams I like. And I think I did well in the last edition because I played teams that I liked, which just happened to be like the teams at the top of the meta. Like I had the starter set teams, played Orcs, played Vet Guard, and then after that, I was like, well, I think these demons look cool and they've been nerfed a million times. Maybe I'll play them. And it turns out they were still one of the best teams. So I think that it's fine to play the best teams if you're really trying to win, but I also think it's fine to play like a mid-tier team. I don't, for my part, I don't know what I'm going to play at Cherokee yet. In our local league, I'm playing Felgor right now. I'm having a lot of fun with them, but I'm also thinking about noodling around with Plague Marines. I have been a notorious Horde enjoyer my whole kill team career, and it's not that I don't want to play elites. It's just I haven't yet. And it's feeling more daunting the more I'm like, I feel like I need to relearn my whole play style in order to do it.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I'm the opposite. I was the elite player in our community last edition. Like I almost exclusively played Legionnaire last edition and did pretty okay with them. And I'll be honest, the minute I saw their rules come out, I was like, as much as my heart wants me to do this, I will not play this war crime against my friends who I care about.
Now, are the two of you for Cherokee Open, are you going there to sweat it out and try and get that golden ticket? Are you going to have a good time? Or have you thought about that yet?
I'd like to get it. I mean, my goal this year was to get a golden ticket because I feel like I'm just on the precipice of getting my game to the point where I can compete at that level. I got 14th place at Nova last year. And, I think I learned a lot in that experience. I've learned a lot between now and then, especially with the new edition. I feel really like solid in the rules for third edition, and I feel really good about like the teams I would like to take to Cherokee Open. Now, bear in mind, like me, George, Mark, we all have plenty of opportunities to go to golden ticket events between now and Worlds. Like for example, I'm going to Richmond with George in May, so I'm gonna have plenty of opportunities to get that sniff at that golden ticket. So I'm not worried about like my opportunities to do that. But it would be pretty cool to get it at like the quote unquote like local one. Particularly if we get like a balanced data slate and like that being the biggest event nearest the data slate, meaning that we might have a lot of eyes on us of like what's good and what's not. So who knows? I mean, I'd like to personally.
It's really funny that that it's the local event, and it's actually further away from where we live than if we were going to go to the Washington Hills.
I know, dude. I know. 4 hours. 4 hours from where we live.
4.5 hours. It's basically in Kentucky.
So wait, so you guys can drive to Nova closer than the local event?
Yeah, it's 4 hours to DC from where we live in Durham, and it's like 4.5 hours to Cherokee.
Gotcha.
Like Cherokee is straight, like it's straight up on an Indian reserve. Like it's out there.
Yeah, it's at a casino.
What's your guys' local scene like there? You said you're in Durham?
Yeah, so we live in the Triangle region of North Carolina, and that's basically the capital, Raleigh, Durham, another large metropolitan area, and then we've got some other like suburbs and like Chapel Hill around here as well. Our scene is largely based out of Atomic Empire, which is the friendly local game store. There's a lot of other spots around here that we like to play at. We play at like Game Theory and the Gathering Place, but we play out our league games at Atomic Empire. A friend of our pod, Mark French, runs the league over there, and so we do quarterly leagues, 10 games in a row. We play on Tuesday nights. we've got a pretty good scene out here. Our league right now caps at 28 players, and we've capped out the last several leagues. We've got waiting lists for this past league or this current league, I think. And then we're able to pretty consistently fill up pretty, good sized tournaments. The last tournament was actually about an hour away from here in Greensboro, and that was a 30-person tournament that filled up. The other cool thing about North Carolina is that there's a lot of scenes out here. It's a pretty spread out state. So while our scene here in the Triangle is probably the biggest, we have scenes out in the Triad area, which is like Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point. They've got a really big scene that's starting to put on big events. They're actually hosting a 6-round tournament in March that I'm pretty excited for. They've got scenes out in Asheville, which is like close to Cherokee. They play hard up there. They're really good at the game. And then I think we've also got a growing scene in Wilmington as well, out towards the beach. So North Carolina is a great place to play. And then I think just the people around here are just so much fun to play with. We just got a lot of great homies.
Yeah, I mean, just straight up, I think and I confirmed this with other people. I think we have one of the biggest kill team scenes in the world, not just in America. Like the fact we get 28 people like consistently at like every Wednesday compared to other scenes is like far above average. And also
we have more people playing in our kill team league than there is at the weekly 40K meetups at our store,
which is wild.
Well done. That is the dream of every kill team.
It's all player. I give Mark French complete credit. He built this league from the ground up. Has been keeping our statistics and numbers together. Has been great listening to community feedback. He's a beast when he runs stuff, and it's great to have him as a tool and as a moderator.
A great player.
Yeah.
An even better hobbyist, maybe.
Oh, he's also easily our best painter.
I don't know. Day's giving him a run for his money.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
So I want to learn a little bit more about your league. How does it work as far as like seedings, or is it just random? Because we don't have many leagues around here. We did a narrative league last year through a bunch of different stores, but we don't really have a local league that we do. We've got a lot of game nights, but it might be something to implement here.
Oh, certainly. So we actually recently implemented ELO-based system, if you're familiar with that. Basically, it is ranked-based matching. So basically, people have a certain rating, and you are matched with people that are of similar rating. And obviously, some of that will be based on as you advance throughout the league, based on your win-loss ratio and things like that. That factors the most. It used to be straight up win-loss, but we, I think 2 leagues ago, implemented this ELO system, and everybody has that ranking based on like chess and stuff.
I think you've got it just backwards a little bit, Joe. I think Mark's been gathering the ELO data for a long time. A couple leagues ago, we switched from just fully random matchmaking to the ranked-based matchmaking. But yeah, I mean, it's been really cool. I've having played in both, I really liked the ranked. I really like the ranked matchmaking because it's fun to play against people of the same skill level, but really just to like clash against the other undefeated players. It's always like just a lot of fun.
And is this straight up competitive? It's not any narrative at all.
No, we have in our Discord, there's a narrative channel, and sometimes people will do like write-ups for their games, but there's no overarching narrative. Although I will say that Mark French does do like a narrative write-up in his Discord, or in the Discord message, where we see who's paired with who and like what the mission and stuff like that is. And now that I'm thinking back on it, there have been some sort of longer running narrative elements, but it tends to be a little bit more of a loose connection rather than, named characters leading the charge. Although I think there has been at least one.
Yeah, and actually specifically we did a poll, I believe, in the community, because I think it got brought up of like, should we, one of these leagues, just do a narrative league? And our community tends to skew more towards the competitive side of things, and opted for keeping things the way they are, along with like loose narrative stuff. Basically, do your own narrative as you will.
I think it'd be fun to run more narrative events, though. Like, I've heard a lot of talk about doing narrative events where you're really kind of building out the game room to kind of give it that more narrative feel, like playing in a room with like dim lights for like the Gallo Dark, or I don't know. My artistic background's more in music than like visual art. So I would love to just like play Kill Team with just like, I don't know, some really heavy metal vibes going, or I don't know, like maybe make like some weird like techno house vibe, and then kind of create a board and an environment that is conducive to that. That'd be a lot of fun.
You know, I think that Kill Team is like a really good breeding ground for like a lot of narrative stuff. I think the narrative system we had in place in the last edition really kind of held narrative back, because once you started to get like a level or two on a guy, it got nutty. Like, it got stupid. You'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
I've got, you know, an anointed with 2 5-up, feel no pains, and he saves on a 2, and he does 95 crit damage. You know, and it just gets like stupid. You know, but like, I think that there's like a lot of foundation, and there's a lot of rumblings in the community, because I think Kill Team could be a really great foundation somewhere with a little bit more like, say, match play style games, but just kind of like a soft narrative going on. You know, like you're telling like kind of a thematic story, and maybe there's like a couple like hinge points in your story or something like that that could be explored. It's something that's been on my mind for a minute. I just haven't figured out a way to kind of explore it and have it feel good with Kill Team yet, you know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what you're describing sounds like what we're doing for the Cherokee Open. George sat down with Day and wrote something out, and they're going to be like a real like narrative like progression and stuff like that. Which often I've found in narrative events, particularly what I think of at Nova, was using the old narrative system in the previous edition, and it's exactly as you described, right? Like some of my scout upgrades were just ridiculous, and the boards were great, and the boards were spectacular, and that was my favorite part of that narrative event. But like, we were just kind of giving buffs to the 40k event, and there was no like overarching whatever, and I just kind of felt a little I do D&D every week, so like I love narrative and story, and lore is where I find my home in 40k. So I would love to see something like that, like especially as a flagship game. Hit the button, guys. Where we get something more like that versus just completely abandoning all of the narrative stuff.
It's kind of a shame that the Ashes of Faith box was so impossible to find.
Oh my god, dude.
Such broken teams. Because I love the idea of like, here's 2 supplemental teams like and the stuff in it with like fighting over a map and like with 2 properly thematic teams was really, really cool. It's kind of like what they used to do in like 9th and 8th edition, where you get like 2 small forces of different factions and then set up for missions. And I was like, oh, this is going to be sweet. We're going to get more of it. And then it released the 2 most broken teams like ever seen at that point. And everyone was like, oh, this sucks. And it was impossible to find, because I would love to get more mini narrative stuff like that back.
See, now, I don't believe that Ashes of Faith was hard to find. Everyone says that it was hard to find. I ended up buying 6 boxes of it. Okay.
Well, that's why it was hard to find, apparently.
No. I was just waiting. I ordered one, and then I'd be like, weeks later, I'd be coming across one. You know, I'd be like at a game store somewhere, and there'd be an Ashes of Faith box. And I'd be like, all right, I'll pick this up. Then I'd be like, hey,
that's fair. I know at least
who needs the teams from Ashes of Faith, and then I would sell it for the cost, because people just wanted it, and I think
you're
that nobody
just a dirty scalper, Tyler. That's what it is.
A dirty, generous scalper giving it out to the community.
Being a friendly person. Well, I don't know. I know at least in my local area, we've got like 4 or 5 stores in like a hour or on the Kitsap Peninsula for me. Of those like 4.5 stores, only 1 store got them, and I think they only got like 4 boxes. I was lucky enough to snag one because I didn't realize they're going to be that cool. I just wanted to pick up the models. And then I found like similar thing like throughout like the Puget Sound, a lot of stores just were never able to grab them for whatever reason. So maybe it was like an artificial scarcity in our area type of thing.
Do y'all have a GW store within range of you?
I have one, and it's all right, but for me it's like an hour drive over a whole bridge and everything. So I try not to go that far out regularly.
Yeah, we got one like right in the heart of like everything in the triangle, and I think it's like one of the best stores on that coast too. Like in terms of like sales and whatever.
It literally burned down, and it couldn't stop them.
It did.
Yeah, we have 3 GW stores in Oregon right now, so like that's pretty good. And then Washington has a decent selection of them too.
Yeah, they're all on the eastern side of the Puget Sound for me, so it's a shame. But I've got a bunch of awesome local ones, which like FLG, so that's really fun.
I want to say the same thing for Gallodark. Everyone complained they couldn't get Gallodark. It was just like, I was so worried I couldn't sell some of the models from Gallodark when I got it, because like everyone's like, oh, no one can get it. And I'd be like, oh, I'll sell you the models at cost and ship it to you. Couldn't sell it. I ended up sending Ben from Battle Brothers Tabletop his Felgor because like no one would buy them from me locally.
Apparently Oregon's the place to be, is what I'm learning. Tyler's got the hookup. He's got that NDA. That's what it is. Kyle, your secret NDA, Tyler, is allowing you to get these boxes.
They send me a stock list in advance, and I just show up at the store and be like, oh, hey, guys, this happens to be here today.
I do think it's really nice. There's been a lot of hemming and hawing about the things that haven't been great with the new edition of Kill Team, but I will say it doesn't feel like there's the same scarcity of product, at least in our local area, that there was in the last edition. Like, stuff like like a Nightmare and Gallowfall, like those kinds of boxes. Like if you didn't get the pre-order, it was just so hard to get around here. But I don't think that's been the problem. Like I feel like anybody who wanted to get Brutal and Cunning was able to get it.
Yeah, that's very true. They've definitely seemed to pump it up. The only thing I know that's like a little difficult right now is I think the starter set, but I'm just assuming that's because like they all sold out during Christmas, and then GW's been busy with like everything else at the moment, so they just haven't restocked some of those yet.
You want to talk about a bonkers moneymaker for GW, man? That starter set is like the premier way for me of getting into Guild Team. Like 2 really solid teams, like
$95. You don't, and it's like I think it's the first time it's a full GW like real game type thing, where not only do you not need to like paint the models, but there's the push fit that you can just push out of the sprue, so you don't even need the scissors. It's like the literal perfect $90 purchase. Do you want to try Kill Team? Here you go.
And you get 10 of Joe's favorite loaded dice.
Yeah, those loaded dice, man.
Man, it's crazy. Those dice spook me, man, with how hot they roll sometimes.
You talking about those tiny little orange ones?
Yes.
Okay. I have like 1 million of those dice. I've never actually rolled them, so I'll throw some in my kit for next time. So
I'm going to play them in games against Joe exclusively now, just to try and get the mental edge.
Psychic damage every time you roll. D4 psychic damage.
Yeah, I mean, like let's be real. Kill Team is as much about like the psychology. When I get to a table, I ask my opponent, do they track their wounds up or down? And whatever they tell me, I tell them I do the opposite.
What does that even mean?
Like 4D chess over here.
Yeah, people count down, like so, like when you take wounds to your model, do you leave how many wounds you have remaining or how many wounds you've taken?
Oh, that would confuse the shit out of me. Like, oh no, that 1 or 2 means I've taken 2 wounds. Oh, I would immediately tell you to like do it the normal way.
I mean, see, but like,
what is the normal way though?
Yeah, what is normal? Like, and that's the thing. I've legitimately ran into people that do it the other way, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? This is the most confusing thing in the world. And so, if I'm ever in that like super sweaty mode, I'm in contention for world ticket. That's what I'm doing. We're pulling it all out. Like,
that's fair. The worst I ever saw though was someone that did that with Hierotech Circle. So not only are they losing wounds and counting up for that, but each guy has a different wound amount, and then they heal as well. I was so fucking confused. I just like, listen, man, you got to stop doing this. I'm not gonna want to finish this game because it's impossible to tell what's happening to your team.
There's also like the 2 different ways to roll D3s, like depending on what school you were taught. Is it 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, or is it like half of the result?
Wait, no, it's 1, 2.
I
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I've been told, I've heard people say half the result. So you'd like it's 6.
That's I tried that because that's like the tabletop way, like that the tabletop RPG way of doing it.
Yeah, that's the old school like D&D way of doing it.
Yeah, and I used to do that, and then people were like, "You're a moron. Please stop doing that." And I was like, "Okay."
Mm-hmm. Wait, exactly. I'm confused. What's the other way? Because I roll a D3, I roll a D6, and it's half. What's
half rounding up?
Yeah. What's the other way?
Well, you probably do like you do the divide. hold on.
Where
one second.
like a 3 or a 4 is a 2, and like a 1
Okay,
or a
so
2.
you do it the new way. You do it the Wargamer way. The Dungeons and Dragons way, like the old school Dungeons and Dragons, you'd roll a d6. And so if you got a 1, it's a 1. If you got a 2, it's a 2. If you got a 3, it's a 3. If you got
Oh,
a
okay,
4,
okay. It's like a repeating thing. Like a 4
Yeah.
is a 1, a 5 is a 2. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, basically. That's basically what it was. And it confuses people. And so depending on the school of like thought you come from and like where you're at in, wargaming and board games and stuff like that, you're gonna have a different perspective on this. So, combine those two tactics together and fuck with your opponent.
Talk about the speed running getting kicked out of your local community.
Yeah. That's a strategy if you want to be a proper Night Lords and install fear, not because like you're scary, but because you're clearly a psychopath.
The pro gamer strats over here.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Feast of Charlotte?
Are you guys you activate at the start of the turning point? You flip all your ones back to unactivated, or do you go like the people that go they activate, then they go black back to orange for the next turn?
I stopped doing that because it's too confusing for my opponent.
Thank you.
Well,
I hate that.
They changed the way that the tokens are, like, because wait, actually, no, no. I used to do orange turn, black turn, but it's the sort of thing where I feel like games are just moving quicker now because turning point 1 feels like it's pretty fast. So I usually just have time to flip tokens back over.
God, I will say that is one of my favorite changes with this edition. Turning point 1 is not this like nail biting of like, oh, am I going to get just blown to smithereens in my deployment? Like
I don't know. I liked scoring 4 points on the primary turn.
Yeah, I know you did, Vet Guard player.
Bring back scoring on turn point 1. It needs to happen. Come on, like that's one of those changes that I feel needs to come back. This game, something with objectives needs to change for balance of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that like there's a lot of talk about moving to 5 objectives. I think that's a great change ultimately, and I would like to see something where we're going back to doing stuff on turning point 1 besides just kind of posturing. But I think that we're all kind of wondering what's going to happen between now and like Q3, Q4 of the year, because those are the kind of changes that aren't going to come until they do a new like approved ops card pack, right?
Yeah,
and that's going to be a while out for sure.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
I'd like to see though, after we get a balanced data slate, a big balanced data slate, how it feels not scoring on turn 1 and how it feels on 3 objectives. Because I feel like with where the meta's at right now, it feels really bad. But if we get a big balance shift, it could change that entire game too.
Can I ask, how much are you guys like playing against the meta teams?
I mean, I just played LVO and I played all meta teams basically except for Vespids. So
okay, fair enough. I was just curious because we've had this discussion on the podcast before. So for example, if you take like, let's say Vet Guard versus, I don't know, Kroot or whatever, right? It fundamentally
Vet Guard are still going to have a bad time.
Or whatever. What equivalent team to equivalent team that is not at like the top S tier, right? So like Kroot versus, I don't know, Scouts. Let's say Scouts. Mm-hmm. It feels like such a different game, and it feels much more fair, and it feels much more fun. Like everyone that we've talked to in our league that isn't playing meta teams, like is playing non-meta teams against each other, they're like, I think the game's great. Is consistently the opinion we've seen from people. And I really think that there is something to what you're saying, that it is going to feel much better when those teams get toned down. Because I do feel like because like that top S to A echelon is just so strong, it's hard to find the good things of this edition, because I do think this has been a good change overall from last edition to good edition.
I agree. I think like we were kind of talking about with Dakota a little bit ago, but we're like, as long as the top 25% teams aren't involved, for the most part, any of those like bottom 75% against another bottom 75%, some teams like Breachers and Vanguard excluded from that, the game definitely feels a lot better. It's just those like top 25 and like bottom 25 teams need a little bit of adjustment to bring them into a more, reasonable rate where Vet Guard actually feels fun to play. Breachers are playable for the first time this edition, and like Legionaries aren't just auto win. I think the game will be in a much better position. I just miss having a bunch of tac ops. I don't like only having one. I want to do like 5 different things at once. But that's a personal gripe, not a game design gripe.
I will say, I'm glad faction tac ops went away, because there was such an added layer of unnecessary balance that needed to be added to the game, especially considering the amount of teams that we have right now. Like, it makes it so much easier for the designers to do balance, and each team having their own weird set of tac ops on top of everything else just made the game so complicated.
Yeah, like Hand of the Archon or like Void Dancers, where like their tac ops were play the game and do the thing you want to do and you'll get points. Meanwhile, Legionaries were like had not a single good one. It was like, yeah, you can spend 2 APL to like tab the body of a guy you killed and then you'll get 1 point. Meanwhile, Hand of the Archon, earn pain tokens and you get points.
Yeah,
Brother,
Hand of the Archon
Legionnaire
though,
scoring.
the Slave Run was still like one of my favorites, though. Not because it was good, but like that was like when you wanted to embarrass your opponent.
Oh yeah,
like
there was a lot of really cool ones.
Be like, I maxed and I Slave Run all of them. Maxed on Slave Run against him. No
I
problem.
take your team as my slaves. Like that's
Absolutely. It was one of the most extreme too, because it was like you had to like carry the body around, and it's like you can't move fast and you can't dash and you can't do this, and like you're weaker at fighting. But like, you know, teabag your opponent. It will be good.
That's kind of how I felt with In Death Atonement, where it's like obviously not as good of a choice as Stand Fast most of the time, but just like the look on your opponent's face when you're like, you killed me better than I killed you, and I'm gonna profit.
I mean, that, you know, like as someone who likes to play pretty aggressive, I will table you if I can, you know. That was always
a learning game.
You know, like no mercy, like get good. Like, you know, if I had a kid, it would be thrown into the pool right away as a newborn, swim or drown like one of those parents.
Hell yeah.
Do you mean like wolves? Like you're hanging out with like wolves that do that?
Yeah.
Not like real human beings.
Canadians is what you're thinking.
Canadians, right? No, I mean, like that's like a theory. Like infants can swim. Like newborn babies, apparently they can swim.
They put like 3-year-olds on skis, so why wouldn't they be able to swim?
Yeah, exactly. But like, if you like take a baby out of a womb, like shortly after, it'll like swim naturally.
I'm sorry. Have you tested this extensively?
I mean, like not extensively, just like an experiment here or there. You know, that's why I can't see my nephew anymore. But like, that's
local man tosses infants in pool.
Tyler, is that why you were asking me about like cloning technology the other day?
You know, like let's not talk about it.
You said you had a weird venture for us to try out. I wasn't expecting this. I thought it was like maybe a new YouTube video idea or something.
Well, so
that happened.
Tyler's dark past comes up on the podcast again. So
I mean, like I was in charge of
I'm a Night Lord's enjoyer, man. Toss all the babies in the pool.
Yeah, I was the guy in charge of like the Nevermind album cover, you know. So like you can thank me.
That guy was damaged for life from that too. The kid who was in the pool.
I mean, yeah, because everyone saw his penis as he was a baby or something.
Didn't he try to sue them
like,
years later for like saying they?
I think he did.
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, you know, that sucks for him, I guess. Like,
and now everybody's showing their penis on the internet for free, Connor.
Why am I getting called out for this?
You know, your only spans.
That's what happens off hours does not affect you, Chuck.
Well, I mean, I pay for a subscription, so I think it does.
Oh, okay.
Didn't know you guys were full-scale content creators.
Yeah. We got the Patreon, and then we got the OnlySpans. It all
Connor
goes to my ad addiction.
Connor does the weird amateur porn. Tyler does the foot stuff. You guys, I can't even talk about what I do.
Yeah, what I do in the off hours is I work for the government. Woo!
That's what Connor does too.
Wait, what do you work for in the government?
I have my master's of public administration, and I just got off a contract job as a program support analyst.
Hey, nice.
For the town of Chapel Hill.
Nice, that's pretty fun. I just do public planning for a local Navy base, and it's not very exciting because it's just a lot of like, all right, we're going to put up a new warehouse, fill out this form. I was like, oh, this is not what I went to college for, but it was the first place that hired me and gave me insurance.
I was about to say, are you a fellow MPA grad?
No, I'm a urban planner grad.
Ah, you're the math guy, not the autism about like policy guy.
No, we're a little bit more that than like math. There wasn't a ton of math. It was a lot of like theory stuff, like, you know, the theory of like how do you improve society by good planning type of shit.
It's just another lane. We're just one lane away from getting rid of traffic, I heard.
Yeah,
Like-
no, oh my god. I love Sierra's family, but her dad tried to, like, you know, talk to me about that because he's lived in Portland his whole life. He's like, Portland just needs to add more highways. I'm like, I want to shoot you for just saying that. Portland is the most over congested piece of shit city I've ever seen. Like, I don't know if Joe or Mark, either of you have ever been like to Portland, but I kid you not, there was one part where like I counted 6 different lanes converge, like, and I'm talking like single lanes converging on like a 3-story tall bridge. It is. It looks like a spaghetti strand.
Mark, didn't you live in Oregon for a little while?
No, I lived in like ski country in Colorado.
That's what it was.
Yeah, we have famously bad traffic for like the size. There's this area called the Wilsonville Vortex, and traffic it'll drop down to 25 miles an hour. There's not ever anything going on there. It's a freeway. It's like I-5, and it just like it slows down to 25 miles an hour for about 5 miles, and then it speeds up to 80. It's a straight sprint, 80 miles an hour after that. So,
oh wow, Jesus.
But like, you know, once you cross the bridge, you know, you get across the bridge, you're safe from the headless horseman. You floor it all the way down to Woodburn.
I've heard that you've got famously good donuts, though, and I've heard like a famously fun kill team tournament. That sounds like y'all have like a wrestling belt or something that you give out too.
Yes, we do.
We gave a sword the first year, or well, the second year technically, and then a wrestling belt last year. And then this year we're gonna do big old. We got a NASCAR theme going on this year.
Oh, that's sick.
That's awesome.
We're gonna be giving away a big old cup at the end of the year.
I'm gonna tell you all the truth. I really want to go to more like big kill team tournaments. I've only really like Nova was the only one I've been to. I've got a lot of anxiety about being on the plane. I've had like some flights where I've just had like a lot of turbulence, and I've got to like really have like a character development moment to like live out my kill team dreams.
Well, we would love to have you out at CritCon and Kill Scream 4 this year. So it's going to be a blast. I think, Chuck, we have a meeting with this Friday, right? To go check out some places.
Yeah, we're going to go scout a location.
Mm-hmm.
So down kind of last year, I don't know if you guys heard about CritCon last year. Basically, we rented out an old H&M at a dying mall here in Portland, and it was awesome. But this year we're going to do full on like at a hotel in a convention center. So
nice.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool. I think this Friday we're gonna go check it out. So yeah, if you can, Connor and I are headed actually kind of your way, headed east at least in a couple of weeks to go to Adepticon. Either you guys gonna make it up to that?
I've like been thinking about it. I'm like, I really wanted to go. The only thing that's kind of popped up recently that has given me some pause is, I think I mentioned it earlier, that our friends in the Triad are doing a 6-round tournament, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's actually the same weekend. So I'm trying to weigh the pros and cons here. Like, I think either way, I'm going to kind of meet my goal of just being like hanging out with friends and like really just connecting. But it's like, am I going to do it in Milwaukee or am I going to do it in Greensboro?
I mean, if you got a local tournament, I would hang out for the local tournament.
Yeah, for me,
sweet, but
yeah, for me, I'm probably gonna likely stay for the local. But honestly, I'm also taking way too many trips recently. Like in March, I have a D&D weekend trip that we do like
yearly thing.
Yeah, biannual. So I have that. Then we have the going to Cherokee, and then we got this local, and then we got the Richmond thing, and I don't know whatever pops up in between. Because George has a tendency of just being like, "Hey, I'm traveling to this like tomorrow. Does anybody want to go?" And I'm usually insane enough to go, "Yeah, George, I'll go with you." And that's how I end up going to half the tournaments I go to.
Traveling for kill team's fun. Like I said, I just got back from LVO. I'm headed to Adepticon. Might go to Nova.
Please do. It's so much fun, and we'd love to meet y'all.
Yeah. Is it so? Is it a pretty cool tournament? I've never been to Nova.
Nova's great, man. Matt, I believe, runs it. I forget his last name, but he runs such a solid tournament. The convention is fucking sick. Like, there is a ton of stuff there. Painting classes, all of these golden demon level displays for painting models. And being like right in the heart of DC, like there's all these great restaurants around. I almost got run over by a presidential Escalade. That was fun. I was right outside the the one of the consulates, and I got to watch almost a fist fight happen in front of the consulate. It's great. It's a great time.
Yeah, for my first time going, I thought Nova was fun on a bun.
I really wanted to go to Nova this year, but I'm going to a concert in Colorado instead. I'm gonna miss you, Greg.
Nice.
Miss you, Greg. So go out and visit him, Chuck.
Yeah, I'll have to. One of the founding members of Kill Team Cascadia, Greg, he moved out to I think the Maryland area just last year, so I got a place to shack up there at least. So maybe I'll have to head out there. So
we'd love to see you, man. Get all the American content creators out there. We can take one big picture with everyone.
When is
it?
And
then maybe Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. End of August.
All right, I'll have to ask the wife, but we might be able to swing that.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah, we can play rock paper scissors together.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
There you go. Well, gentlemen, it's past Connor's bedtime for one, but I know it's late on the East Coast where you're at. Really appreciate you joining us. You got anything you want to plug? Cherokee Open looks like is February 21st through the 23rd.
Yeah, 21st through 23rd of February at the Harrah's Casino Resort in Cherokee, North Carolina. $70 tickets going to get you in for the full Kill Team weekend. That's the narrative on Friday, and then the 6-round GT on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to be there, and I'm really excited to have the chance, to come on this podcast and chat with y'all. Y'all are awesome. This was so much fun, but also to just meet more people at the Cherokee Open. I think I went to Nova this last time really focused on being super competitive, and I definitely want to be competitive and play my best kill team at Cherokee, but I definitely want to take a little bit more time and be more intentional of trying not to let my social anxiety grip me and say hey to and make some new friends.
Well, I get the social anxiety thing. I went to LVO with a couple of microphones and planned to get content, and all I did was hand out some stickers, and I met George. That was cool. But so
George is easy to talk to.
I totally understand the social anxiety piece. I'm going to try and do even more of it at Adepticon. So, but and then Vox Scream podcast. I love listening to you guys because I feel like we come on here and we talk a lot. We talk a little bit of Kill Team. We talk a lot of bullshit, but I feel like you guys really deep dive into teams. I know when Death Guard came out, I was raking leaves while I was listening to you guys talk about Death Guard, and it helped me for the couple games I played with them. So really appreciate what you guys do. We'll put some links in the show notes for the Cherokee as well as Vox Scream.
I actually have one more question for y'all now that I'm thinking about this, because as I mentioned earlier, I edit podcasts for a living. So I don't know if y'all have been in a situation like this. I used to be a cook for a long time, and at the end of the day, I couldn't stand to make myself food. I would eat cereal or just something super easy. I just couldn't cook after cooking all day. And I don't listen to as many podcasts as I used to now that I'm making podcasts all day, but I have been listening to Vox Cascadia. I listened to your last couple episodes. I really liked them. What would you say is your greatest hit? If I'm going to go back through the archives and listen to an episode, what should I dig out?
Ooh,
I think that the Primarch dating is our best.
Primarch dating is real good.
The $1 Billion Clown Farm episode
I was going to say that
really
one.
good also. Tyler Russo's a blast. Super cool dude. Longtime friend of mine online. I got to meet him a few times at a couple events, but that was a good one. Those are my two favorite, but Primarch dating and the $1 Billion Clown Farm episode.
I liked when we had Battle Brothers Ben because he defended me from Chuck, so he's earned my loyalty for life. And he's the original reason I even got into Kill Team was I happened to see a video. I was like, well, I had the Krieg box, and I was like, well, we might as well try Kill Team because this video made it seem like a good time. So that was sweet. But then I think our other one was 2 or 3 weeks ago, where it was the one right before Chuck goes to LVO, and we delayed the podcast and everything, thinking we'd have the balanced data slate. And then it didn't show up at all, so we just bullshitted for an entire hour and a half. It was a good time.
I really liked that.
Yeah, that one was fun because we just
really
entirely dropped the pretense of discussing Kill Team.
Yeah, I mean, so I just realized I was looking on Discord. So George, that's Strom online, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Man, he's a brain about this fucking game. Shout out to you guys. I just put that together. He's a mega brain. I've seen him all over the place talking about stuff, and his takes are hot. And he's
yes,
reliable.
Yes, they are.
Him and I have butted heads a few times about stuff. years ago, but always in like a fun way. It's like always great talking with someone that knows their stuff really well. So it's cool to put like voices and like more stuff together and like get a fuller picture of who y'all are after talking with you for this like hour and a half or so.
Long time.
Yeah.
Well, all right, do you guys have any other socials too besides the podcast? Any Instagrams or anything?
We're working on it.
Yeah,
we're real bad about it. We're working on it
soon. We don't have like a Vox Scream Discord yet. I don't think we're in our Discord moderator era, but we're in like a lot of the other community Discords. If you see me on Discord, it'll either be Vox Scream Mark or Dr. Captain Chef. You can DM me. I'd love to chat, love to connect.
And you can find me as Nap Enjoyer.
Nice.
Great name, too.
Connor, where are you at?
I'm Spanaway on nearly everything.
I'm at Painted Cave Minis. We're at Vox Cascadia on Instagram. Patreon.com/Vox Cascadia Podcast. Newest Patreon this week. Zach, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Zach.
He messaged me. He's like, "You guys have a Patreon since when?" I'm like, "Well, since like last week." So, and then Zarin upgraded again. Zarin, here's your mention. Although Zarin said that I can't create new tiers for Zarin to upgrade, but
that's fair.
That's understandable.
Yeah, Zarin, one of locals up in Connor's scene. Basically, he started on a first tier Patreon. Said that every time we mentioned him, he'd upgrade a tier. So we mentioned him 3 consecutive episodes. Now he's just kind of capped out. So
we're those assholes.
We're thinking about a Patreon somewhere down the line. I'd love to do like in-depth guides as a potential offer for that. So like I was thinking Rekkas were on my list. Scouts, Plague Marines too, like a 30 to 45 minute like in-depth written and like vocal guide to those teams. So that might be something.
Like competitive battle reports.
Yeah. That
cool.
too.
And Tyler, you're at Lowbrow Minis and dicethrower.bigcartel.com.
Yeah.
Any what's up with the shirt game? Tyler does shirts if you guys have ever seen.
You're a dice thrower, dude. Those shirts are sick.
Yeah, thank you. That's on like my little side project out there. Let's see, Kill Team shirt should be going on print here soon. Just waiting for word back from the print shop. Didn't get it in before the holidays, and they got beginning of the year stuff that they're doing on there. So anytime now. And then Keaton's been working on a design for me, so we should see that in the coming couple months, and then a couple other things hopefully in the future. So I do have some dead stock that's probably going to go on sale in weird sizes pretty soon. So probably the only chance you'll ever be able to get a discount on stuff coming up soon. So
awesome. Well, gentlemen, thanks again for joining us.
Really quick, Chuck, before we cut off, because I've forgotten like 3 weeks in a row now because I'm a bad friend. We got to shout out Sean's event too.
We're going to have him on the podcast.
Okay, well, never mind. Then cut this. Anyways, Sean's got an event coming soon. We'll talk about that more in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. No, Sean's also got an event up, where is it? Skagit?
Like Bellingham area, very northern Washington.
Yeah, coming up first
weekend
in March. First weekend of March.
First weekend of March, I think it's
something like March 8th and 9th.
Yeah, 64 player golden ticket tournament. So we'll get Sean on. We'll see if we can get Sean on next week to chat about it. So
yeah, absolutely. So it'll be a good time. And then we got our tag team or our double duty team tournament coming up same weekend as the Cherokee, but we're already full, so we don't really have much to talk about with that.
Yeah. So well, we got stuff in the works. We'll look for something in April. Probably maybe we can do something by Connor. And Connor, I think we're in May probably.
Well, that's that works for me. I was gonna try and make a joke with like maybe a good idea, but I don't know. Nothing came to mind.
The joke didn't work either.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Good luck, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, looking forward to having some or all of y'all on our podcast.
Hell yeah, man! Yeah. Absolutely. This was great meeting you guys. You guys are fantastic.
Next time, maybe we can bring George.
Yeah, bring George, and then maybe he'll know who I am next time.